Hello everyone, this is Krotic giving you a shoutcast and bringing up my overlays once more in a excuse me, 2v2 matchup between EG versus Fnatic. We have Axlab and StrifeCrow representing EG. Axlab spawning as the red Protoss, meanwhile StrifeCrow spawning as the yellow Zerg. Meanwhile, over here on the west side of the map, we have Kawaii Rice spawning as the orange Terran player against TT1 spawning as the green Protoss. So this will be Protoss and Terran versus Protoss and Zerg. Here on Shakura's Plateau, it promises to be a very interesting matchup, and I am looking forward to a lot of these 2v2 games just because we don't get to see them nearly as much. A lot of 2v2 games are pretty fun. You can see already EG StrifeCrow making sure and moving down with this Overlord, making sure that there are no proxy pylons down over here, no proxy gateways, and now making his way out over here to perhaps see any incoming units. Also the probe over here, wanting to make sure the same thing as well as the probe now wandering around. Excuse me. Now, anyways, this is one of those 2v2 matchups already, and this is going to be one of the more critical matchups as the games continue. Mouse Sports has already done a really good job taking the first two games, or first 2 weeks of their games. I believe they've already won a combination anywhere from 8 to 9 games already. So the only way that EG and Fnatic are really going to be able to get back into this is the games that they play against each other. As I get tongue-tied, I'll do another announcement video about the placements and who's playing what, but just know that this is an important 2v2 matchup. All the games are really coming down to the wire now as the games continue. A probe now making his way and just going to continue to scout here. Now, there are two real ways of playing 2v2 matchups. There are the ways of the initial rush versus the initial trying to just build a very strong economy. And it looks, by the looks of it, StrifeCrow not opting to go for a 10 pool and instead opting to go for a hatchery first. So a hatchery first here on Shakura's Plateau, opening into a very strong economy. You can take a look back into TT1. You can see the assimilator is down over here, and also the refinery over here. So that means we will not be having any early rushes, and this should give a slight advantage to EG at this stage in the game. We are getting another assimilator in by Axlab. Axlab delaying his assimilator for a straight... No, sorry, that was a second assimilator. So already going for a second gas as well. So double gas in play, slightly faster than TT1's already, as I believe the scouting probe was taken down back over there. Overlords now making their way out as well. Production-wise, we already see the robotics bay coming in the robotics facility now coming in by Axlab. So we are going to be having some observers out, perhaps even some Colossus as well. Meanwhile, StrifeCrow continuing to mine away with these drones over here. He should have the most harvesters, or at least the strongest economy at this stage, as he is mining off of 16 mineral patches instead of 8, and that will allow him to mine without any serious diminishing returns at all. The Overlord now getting into position. Perhaps the Overlord can position itself here, and we may have some Blink Stalkers later in this matchup. I'll try to leave this production tab up for you, but it does cover a fair amount of the screen, especially if the players are queuing up a lot. Most likely the Terran player, Kawaii Rice, will be the one to do the most there. We are getting another command center now. So Kawaii Rice also expanding before the 5-minute, or at the 5-minute mark around that time, as siege tanks are being trained up, and now Marines perhaps going to be added to that group. It looks like both players not looking to build a very strong army at this time, just both players building strong economies instead, as we are now finally getting additional gateways. So Axlab opting to go for a gateway into a robotics facility. He has not started his warp gate research, or just started his warp gate research now. That's probably a little bit of a mistake there, as we are also getting a robotics bay. So it looks like a lot of Colossus with a lot of gateway units. Very powerful Protoss ball of units there. The Protoss army very powerful against Marines and also against other Protoss units as well. We'll see what's going to be happening as TT1 now getting a lot of sentries. So sentries are going to be useful for hallucinations, trying to scout out your opponent. Very, very fast-moving phoenixes. More sentries still being added. So perhaps we will be getting a lot of force fields as well. The only saving grace by Axtav will be the fact that he already has his Colossus, first Colossus being trained, and he will be able to break down force fields with relative ease. Zerglings now making their way out and going to just run up and down, perhaps doing a little bit of a scouting check to see if there is expansions being placed down. Already upgrading to an orbital command here. Siege tanks now moving down, may get caught in transition as the Zerglings, deciding not to push their way forward. The siege tanks do have siege tech, but have not sieged up just quite yet. So the Zerglings now just waiting outside that front door and waiting for the army that is currently being built. Army-wise, total resources, Kawaii Rice and TT1 significantly ahead in terms of their army, but they are behind in terms of the economy. You can see Kawaii Rice only on 28 SCVs compared to 36 probes, 33 probes, and 40 drones. So Kawaii Rice a little bit behind. He needs to start training up as many SCVs as possible if he's going to be able to fight back into this game. Axlav, on the other hand, now finally establishing his expansion there. So TT1 and Axlav about the same timings in terms of trying to establish an expansion pretty easily and fairly quickly. Another expansion by StrifeCrow at the 12 o'clock position or 11 o'clock position here on Shakuro's Plateau. And this is a very gutsy move. Zerg players normally like to expand, and Shakuro's Plateau is one of those maps. This is not Shakuro's Plateau. What am I even thinking? This is Scorched Haven. So Scorched Haven, one of those maps, very difficult to expand on. As a Zerg player, your third base is always going to be very exposed and very easy for your opponent to get to, and that is always a serious issue and a serious problem. This is the natural third base location, though. This location here and this location here, the map is more divided along a line like this on the mini-map, just because of the way this opening is closer to the north side, and then this base over here is so far to the right that it doesn't really matter. A Phoenix now coming in from TT1, or a hallucinated Phoenix, now making its way around, taking a look and trying to see everything it can, shooting at an Overlord for just a moment, and just wasting its time, as a hallucinated Phoenix obviously cannot do any damage whatsoever. We do have a fair number of Zerglings over here as well, and the Zerglings are now making their way down to make sure that their opponents are not trying to move out. And it almost feels like Fnatic is a little bit afraid to make a move or do anything of that nature, and by sitting on their bases, it's actually going to put them even further behind, especially as this probe is waiting for enough minerals to set up a nexus down here. We are already getting infestors. So Infestors with Colossus is such a dangerous combination. Infestor or Colossus able to get a lot of splash damage on a line of units as long as they're bunched together. Infestors making sure that they are in fact bunched together, as we are now at Hive Tech as well, and now going into a Greater Spire. So a Greater Spire coming in next, and that Greater Spire most likely meaning Broodlords will be coming in the near future as well. Broodlords with that range, Colossus and Infestors. This is going to become a very, very heavy macro game, as Marines now simply stimming up the ramp and perhaps going to get some damage over here, clearing out that one Zergling at the Zonaga Watchtower. The Queen now trying to run away, but an army of Zerglings quickly coming in. And there you go, that Spine Crawler almost taken down. The Medevac able to barely escape with its life there, and now that Queen unable to make its way over, and that Medevac will just sit there, perhaps unload those Marines and heal them back up. But no real pressure will be done at all, especially with an Infestor now on this side of the map, able to immobilize those Marines, and immobile Marines against an army of Zerglings quickly get surrounded and swarmed away. StrifeCrow now making his way out with additional Overlords. Axlav now opting to go for even more probes down over here. It looks like it has just finished, and there you go, gonna get up an even stronger economy. So we are now getting 64, 71 harvesters compared to 49 and 56. That is going to be a very strong economy by Axlav, and both players just playing a very macro-heavy style of game there. Zerglings now trying to make their way over, and now an even larger swarm of Zerglings followed by that fungal growth. There you go. The Medevac unable to move. Perhaps going for another fungal growth. Two fungal growths not enough to shut down or destroy a Medevac, unless you have infested marines, spawn infested marines or infested Terrans right underneath those units, as that medevac now retreats back and regroups with the rest of this army. Army-wise, you can see both sides have fairly similar sizes in army. TT1 and Kawaii Rice do have the larger army ever so slightly, but the income means that when Kawaii Rice and TT1 try to replace their armies, they're not going to be able to replace it nearly as quickly, especially with Broodlords now coming in, with no Vikings that I can see, and only Stalkers, and the Stalkers do not have Blink. That is going to become a very difficult battle. The Colossus now quickly coming in as well. The Broodlords are in the back. They should be in the front of this engagement here, perhaps just causing the siege tanks to start splashing against themselves. And as soon as StarCraft engages with these Broodlords, the battle should quickly and easily change. StarCraft has a lot of resources that he's sitting on. How many Broodlord cocoons? Now we have 4 Broodlords on the way out. Even more getting added as well, as there are a couple corruptors just to make sure that those Broodlords have a little bit of an escort there. As the infestors still wandering around, we are now going into 5 Broodlords as this army tries to slowly make its way up, and there you can see the Broodlings quickly damaging down and taking down some of those units. There are more Broodlings coming in, and this is going to be very, very bad, as those Broodlords just getting so much damage, as the siege tanks causing so much splash damage there, and the Broodlings now continuing to give chase. Stalkers and Colossi now battling around, and we have Zerglings coming in from behind, so this is a perfect sandwich, and Fnatic is going to have a very difficult time as Zerglings are countering the Marauders and the Marines, both sides. Infestors fighting back and forth, multiple fungal growths. The units are unable to reinforce the units that are coming in from behind there. And now the Stalker army and the Colossus army are now simply going to be able to push in. The Infestors do not move fast enough in order to catch up, as the Stalkers of Axlab quickly blink into play. And there you go. A lot of damage has been dealt. Total losses, Kawaii Rice and StarCraft taking the brunt of that damage, but TT1 losing a lot in that battle as well. Stalkers now once again trying to engage, and this is not in a position where EG Axlab should be trying to engage, and he, I believe, almost lost the game there if he was unable to pull back in time. The Infestors are once again trying to battle it out, but there are a lot of Broodlords in the air with only a couple Vikings. Those Vikings are getting fungal growth, but those Vikings need to take down an army of Broodlords and an army of Colossus in order to fight back. The Broodlings are now continuing to chase down more units. More Vikings are being added to the party, but I don't think there's enough Vikings, and there's the GG. If TT1 had just gotten, if Kawaii Rice had just started double production of Vikings, perhaps 2 to 3 minutes earlier, by scatter sweeping and seeing the sheer number of Colossus, the sheer number of Broodlords, I think this battle could have gone a completely different way. You can see there's only a handful of Stalkers, 2 Stalkers here, and if those Vikings were able to just simply shoot down the Colossus, that would have been the end of the story rather quickly. But no, Axlab sitting on, what, 5 Colossi, StarCraft sitting on 4 Broodlords with some Infestors nearby as well, getting a couple critical fungal growths onto those units and able to take the win. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed Game 1 in this best of 3 series between these two teams. EG taking the first game of the series. We'll see what happens here in Game 2.